so we all went over there. Nick and I brought the kids over. Her kids, they all running around playing. She was scrambling through the house, making sure we had enough to eat. And her talk that she will give to you is about music and the universal language of it and how it builds community. And while we were there, she taught me how to play an instrument I had never seen before. And then her daughter taught me more about how to play an instrument I had never seen before. And at the very end, we spent an obnoxiously long time, well into the night, longer than our kids should have ever been awake, playing music, eating food, and growing into this community. And that is what she is here doing, and that is what Yesenia Hunter is here to tell you about. Welcome, Yesenia.
I came to the United States when I was 5 years old with my parents. I was raised here in the Yakima Valley, and being the 13th of 17 children, our family worked as a migrant farm working family. We spent our summers away from the Yakima Valley, taking strawberries and other vegetables that feed people in this valley and people throughout the world. Living a life where your struggle is associated with poverty, like mine was, can cause a person to really pull away from the very thing that makes you strong. It can cause a person to pull away from the thing that brings you a sense of identidad, a sense of identity. I'm talking in particular about culture, I'm talking about language, and I'm talking about community. I realized right away when I was in the first grade that I needed to learn the English language, and I needed to learn it quick. And so in order for me to have friends, navigate my new system of being in the first grade and learning how to read, I had to learn English, and I also had to learn how to pronounce things correctly. In fact, my name, Yesenia, I just wished, why did my parents call me Samantha? Wouldn't that just have been a little bit easier? And maybe I would have had a few more friends. Beginning to learn the English language was easy for me, as if any of you who have worked with children in the school system, if you've ever worked with children that are learning the language, it can be very easy and it can be very quick. But what I have found, not only in my personal life, but also in talking to other mothers that come from different countries, in particular from Latin American countries, both here in Yakima and throughout the Seattle area, is that when children begin to learn the English language and parents don't quite catch up, they don't quite keep up in learning the languages quickly, there begins to be a disconnect within the family. There begins to be a disconnect and even sometimes a dissonance between, because the languages begin to kind of take you a different way. And that's what I'm talking about, pulling away from the thing that gives you identity, pulling away from the thing that makes you strong. And you don't realize it, being a first grader, you don't realize that what you're doing is actually pulling farther away from the people that love you and that connect you to who you are and connect you to your cultural self. The other thing about living in the struggle of poverty is that poverty becomes the ceiling. Financial issues become the ceiling that you're always working towards. It becomes what my mother would say, the necesidad, the need. That's always the goal of meeting those basic needs. And it's hard as you're growing up within that structure to see beyond, and sometimes you get glimpses of what maybe you could do that's big and great, but just glimpses, because that ceiling is always there. A few years ago, my husband and I were invited to a taller, a workshop, where this music of son jarocho from Veracruz, Mexico was being shared. The music is shared not just in a way where you're learning a style of music, but you're learning a practice of the music, a practice of making music together in a community setting. And so we went to the talleres and we really just instantly fell in love with the music. It's just beautiful. There's no other way to frame it. But what we didn't realize is that playing music, learning music, practicing music with other people in a community setting began to shape how we saw ourselves. It began to create a difference in how we saw our family and how we saw other people. You see, I can guarantee you that if you can think of a community, if you are part of a community, think about a time when all of a sudden your community, it wasn't just one day to the next where you're like, today I'm going to be part of a community. No, it happens organically, and it happens because you have had opportunities to be vulnerable, and you've had an opportunity to be authentic. You've had an opportunity to really be yourself. There's nothing more vulnerable than being part of a community where there's the hierarchy of learning is dismantled. When you go into a workshop and you're learning to play music together, there's no one teacher with an assignment and then a test at the end. In fact, your teacher might be a small child that's showing you how to dance on this wood box. It might be an elderly person that doesn't have a degree but knows and has the skills of how to bring out the music in an instrument. So what began to happen is that we, without really realizing, had an opportunity to be authentic, to really be ourselves with other people. And we began creating music. We also found a space where I, in the stage of life that I was in as a mother, was welcomed, and I had access to instruments. Now, I'm married to a professional musician, and I know the rigor and the study and the time and the alone time that musicians need in order to hone their skills. But this type of music is different in that alone time really only does you one good, and that's to practice your skill, but it's really in the community setting where you begin to practice your life skills, where you begin to practice connecting with people. And so it begins to overflow into your everyday life. It flows into just falling in love with people. All of a sudden, you don't even realize it. In fact, you realize it when you look back. When you look back and say, huh, I like that guy. Huh, I really like being around those people. Oh, we're having a birthday party. We can't do a birthday party without inviting them. And what we say in Spanish is that it creates a spirit of convivencia. Convivencia, roughly translated, means living and doing life with other people. But more beautifully translated, it's just connectedness. It's a spirit of wanting to be next to them all the time. We also found a space where children were welcomed. So now, imagine, I have 4 kids. I'm a breastfeeding mother. Sometimes I'm dancing with a child attached. And I was welcomed in that space. Somebody just got that. I was welcomed in that space. And the children, their laughter, their enthusiasm, and oftentimes their naughty disobedience was the thing that fed the music, was the thing that brought inspiration to us to play even more. Today we're going to show you a snippet of a song called El Pandanguito. And this is our rendition of this song. This is a traditional instrument called the jarana that I was taught to play as an adult just a few years ago. So here we go. handcrafted instrument that was handmade. It's like the bass of the music. And Victor Vega plays the cajon, which is traditionally from a Peruvian instrument, but it's also used in this Afro-Mexican music called son jarocho. And the most important instrument within the practice of the fandango and the practice of the son jarocho is actually this stop box here, which is typically played by women with their feet, sometimes also by men, and it's the heartbeat of the music.
And what's the name of the box?
This box is called the tarima.
And so you told us that you lived here, and then you moved to Seattle, and then you came back. What brought you back?
What brought us back is the music. This music belongs in Yakima. It belongs to the people of Yakima.
Thank you so much for coming up and telling your story. Your story is very similar to many of the kids in the Yakima Valley and around the world. And I really hope that you guys can keep going and keep bringing San Jarocho to Yakima. Thank you very much.